What's happening, everybody? I am Eric J. Olson, your host for this live episode of the Managing Partners podcast. In this podcast, we interview America's top managing partners to find out what they're doing to run their businesses, grow their businesses, and to keep their case pipeline full. And today, I have with me David Munoz. Did I get it?
You're close. You're very close.
All right. Okay. We're not going to re-record that. Actually, would you say your last name for the audience? I want to make sure we get it right.
My last name is Munoz.
Munoz.
And as I mentioned earlier, I think you hit it on the head as to why we're not Munoz Law Firm. We wanted people to actually be able to pronounce the firm name.
This is like a recurring thing on this podcast where I screw up someone's name and then we talk about it. So my apologies, but thanks for playing along. Let me tell the audience a little bit about you. David is the co-founder and managing partner at Mission Personal Injury Lawyers with offices in San Diego, California, and El Paso, Texas. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Well, appreciate you making the time. Would you mind telling the audience a little bit more about yourself and your firm?
Yeah. Well, again, my name is David Munoz. I was born and raised in El Paso, Texas, and that's actually where my dad opened up his office, Munoz Law Firm. And I went through college and law school and grad school in San Antonio, Texas. And while I was there, my parents decided that they wanted to move to San Diego to retire mainly. And they asked me if I'd be willing to give California a shot. And most people outside of California think moving to California is just crazy. And so I wasn't really sold on the idea. But I told him, well, I'll give it a shot. And so we ended up moving here to San Diego together, and I ended up loving it. And when I first moved here, I started in intellectual property, and I realized that I'm not so much of an intellectual property person. It was much more of a desk job than I ever wanted to do. My focus wanted to be more in trial. And I asked my dad if we opened up an office here, would he work with me? And reluctantly, he agreed because he came here to retire mainly. But he's been helping me ever since, and we've been open for 12 years, well, almost 12 years now. And our firm name is now Mission Personal Injury. And thanks to Texas passing the ability to use trade names, the El Paso office is Mission Personal Injury as well.
That's awesome. That's a really interesting story, how you change practice areas and a pretty significant change as well. I mean, I would imagine going from IP to personal injury.
It's definitely a change. And, learning about inventions and what biotech inventions were the ones that I was working on, and they're great. And, God bless the people that do that work. It just, for me, I wanted to be up, moving around a little bit more. And trial work is where I found that. And when we first opened this office, I did what's called door law, meaning I pretty much took everything that comes through the door, and that includes criminal law, business formation, all kinds of stuff. And even though I liked the ability to go try cases using criminal law, I just found personal injury to be a little bit more specific to my background and what I like to do. And it just seemed the right fit for me.
Good for you. Yeah, that is a big change. I'm interested in, and I think our managing partners who listen to this podcast would be interested in knowing how long did that transition require before you felt like you were actually a personal injury lawyer?
I would say approximately 4 years, maybe a little less, but to go from IP, and the thing is, when you're working at those jobs, they pay well. And to leave that to start a business, it was pretty tough because that means I was going to have to be 30 years old and move in with my parents. And so there's no bigger motivator than being 30 years old and living with your parents and trying to go on the dating scene. And so, I really had to try and hustle just to make sure that I could hopefully at least one day move out of my parents' house and maybe a girl would go on a date with me. And I did everything, and I finally was able to just narrow down only personal injury. Maybe it took about 4 years, I'd say, because as you know, and at least I don't know what most people don't know, in personal injury, you don't get paid right away. You have to wait until the case settles, and you have to kind of build up your savings and be able to sustain yourself until those cases settle. So, it takes some time.
Yeah, and based on what you just talked about, how you're funding the case in advance and certainly hoping for a verdict in your favor, I'm guessing there was you needed that transition time of 4 years where you're doing other kinds of work to fund the personal injury law practice area. Is that about right?
Exactly. I mean, you can charge a retainer in other areas, you can charge hourly in other areas. But personal injury is not one of those. And so, yeah, it definitely, the other areas helped fund the personal injury practice.
That is, it's always been kind of interesting to me. Like, why is it so different in personal injury where the lawyer funds those cases as compared to other practice areas? Have you come to a conclusion on that, or is it that's just the way it's always been?
I've come to the conclusion, and I think it's more of a public policy decision because not everybody who has money gets into accidents. And what I mean by that is people from all walks of life get hurt and get involved in a personal injury. And if we charged hourly, then only people with money would be able to get justice for whatever happened to them. And so I think it's a great way to do things because it means anybody can hire an attorney, no matter what walk of life they come from, and we're able to get a recovery for them. I love that model. There's definitely other places where I worked that only big corporate, Fortune 500 companies were able to afford the services, and it didn't sit well with me. So I really, really like the contingency fee arrangement.
And you have to be on top of your game, right? I mean, if you don't get paid until you get results, you better figure out how to get results pretty quick. So,
yeah.
Well, congratulations on the transition. I know it's been a while now. You said 12 years, but that's a tough decision to make. And certainly dating from your parents' house at the age of 30, that's motivation, right?
That was the biggest motivator, I'd have to say, is, I felt like, I don't know if you've seen Seinfeld, but I felt like George Costanza living with his parents.
That's hilarious. All right. So now as a personal injury lawyer, what are some different ways that you go about getting the attention of people who need your help?
I think we've kind of reached a weird spot in the legal field because the people before me wanted to focus on trial skills and making sure they're the best trial lawyer that they can possibly be, which is how I started. I made sure that I tried as many cases as I possibly could because I didn't want anybody to be able to outgame me in trial. I think the worst thing that you could possibly do is the first big case that you get is also your first trial. That'd be extremely scary for me. So I wanted to make sure I tried as many cases as possible so I could be prepared. But there's recently, I would say maybe 3 to 4 years ago now, the want to become a good trial lawyer isn't really there as much for the younger generation. For them, they care more about the marketing and putting themselves out there on social media, on ads, on commercials and stuff like that without really obtaining the skills of the lawyer. And then I guess after they get the book of business, then they can hire a trial lawyer. I think that's probably what their plan is. For me, I feel like I'm in the middle because I've worked on my trial skills and becoming a good lawyer first. And now I'm trying to play catch up with the other stuff as far as the marketing. And so that's kind of where I'm at now.
That's interesting. The two different kinds of lawyers, the trial lawyer versus the marketer, who effectively delegates the trials when necessary to someone else. It seems like, I've come across that in other industries. Usually it's either like someone who's very familiar with business or someone who's very skilled with the trade, whatever that happens to be.
Right.
And there's few people who have skills in both areas. You're being one of them. So that's really impressive that you feel comfortable on both sides of the business and the marketing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to do to differentiate myself from most.
Yeah. When it comes to the actual marketing, personal injury lawyers are pretty well known for things like billboards, TVs, different styles. Some,
right.
But certainly attention getting styles. What's kind of like the approach that you take when it comes to your marketing and the different kinds of marketing that you do?
Honestly, I can say that we take more of a conservative approach just because so many attorneys focus on attention getting that I think that the marketing comes across as distasteful. And it might be attention grabbing for a certain sect of people. But we want to attract the people that don't want that type of lawyer, that want a lawyer that's honorable and respectful and has skills. And on top of that, because everybody in our office speaks Spanish, a good number of our clients are also Spanish speaking. So that's kind of the niche that we focus on, is the people that care more about having a respectable attorney and one that speaks Spanish.
Are the majority of your clients Spanish speaking?
No, I would say about 40 to 45% of our clients are Spanish speaking.
Okay. So certainly, yeah, I mean, El Paso, Texas, and San Diego, California, large Spanish-speaking populations, makes a lot of sense that you would be bilingual, definitely.
Yeah. And when I say we're bilingual, I mean literally everybody in the office, from the receptionist to the attorneys. I think most offices might have somebody in the office, like a paralegal or somebody that speaks Spanish, but literally everybody in the office does. And we even have Spanish-speaking days, like Tuesday, Thursdays are the days that we're supposed to only speak Spanish in the office.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So actually to that point, a lot of times when you call a business, it'll say, press 1 for English and the Spanish version, or press 2 for Spanish, right? I'm guessing you don't need to do that. You can handle anybody. That's interesting.
Right. Our receptionist actually speaks French too, but that's not, we don't have a whole lot of people that only speak French.
We don't get a lot of that in the United States.
No.
So, all right. So from a marketing standpoint, personal injury, you've taken kind of a more conservative, respectable, if you will, approach. What is something that you've discovered, maybe even recently, that just hasn't worked quite as well as it used to? Something that maybe you stopped doing when it comes to your marketing?
One thing that I think hasn't worked as well in the past might be, joining, like referral networks. I would say, like, if you do BNI or I'm trying to think of some other ones, business chambers of commerce.
Yeah.
At least for my particular practice area, it hasn't proven to be as fruitful, only because, you have to know something. You have to know somebody that something bad has happened to them. If you do business law, or you do if you do estate planning, those types of things might be good for you. But for my particular practice area, it just hasn't proved to be as beneficial.
Yeah, I can understand that. Certainly, and with personal injury, there's it seems like the amount of time that is required for people to make a decision is very narrow. Right? They get injured, they're going to reach out to a couple of personal injury lawyers, and it seems like the decision is made within a matter of days. Whereas something like estate planning, you may ask a whole bunch of your colleagues,
right?
Hey, where's a good place I can get a will or whatever, right?
Right.
Or family law is probably the same way. Have you found, like, what have you found that duration of time to be between when someone gets injured and they make up their mind, generally speaking, on who they're going to go with?
I hate giving you the lawyer answer about that. It depends, but we've had people call the office within 10 minutes of being in an accident.
Wow.
And then we also have other people who they really thought they could do it on their own. And they waited until the day before we have to file a lawsuit to hire us. So, you have a lot of people and attorneys. I mean, that's not just people that aren't, there's attorneys that dabble too and want to handle it on their own. Maybe they specialize in family law, but they want to handle a personal injury case here and there. And it just proves to be disastrous. So
Yeah.
I guess the answer is depends. It can be anywhere from 10 minutes of the accident to, hopefully they call us before the statute of limitations is run, which is 2 years.
2 years. Okay. And at what point in what severity of an accident would you normally recommend people call you? Like, certainly if it's a fender bender, no, but I mean, we're kind of like, broken bones, like at that level, or certainly like head trauma.
I think no matter what the severity of the accident that you've been in, it's a good idea to call a personal injury attorney no matter what. Because I've had situations where it seemed like a smaller accident, but it just really kind of blew up into something a lot more, because you just never know how somebody's going to be affected. And so I think it's a good idea. And plus, on top of that, it makes dealing with the insurance company a lot easier. You don't have to deal with them anymore.
Yeah.
So it takes away the headache of having to call them and you try and negotiate with them and get them the information. Like, the attorney does all of that for you. So all you have to worry about is, even if it's a small one, just getting better, and let the attorney handle all the insurance headache. So it just really is, no matter how severe the accident is, I really think it's beneficial for everybody.
Good advice. I like that a lot. So you have offices now in 2 states.
Correct.
Pretty far separation between the two. Yeah. What are your growth plans for the next couple of years?
Well, I'd like to be everywhere in the United States, but within the next couple of years, you can do it. Yeah. Within the next couple of years, I'd like to kind of fill the gap between San Diego and El Paso, and see how it goes from there. But time will tell. I believe in slow growth as opposed to just rushing in there, and next thing you know, I have to shut down offices, because I take being an employer pretty seriously. Yeah. People depend on the job, and you don't want to do something too hasty that's going to cost people their job. So I want to make sure that when we do something, that we're ready and we can sustain it.
So are you thinking like from San Diego going east, basically?
Yeah, kind of filling the gap between El Paso and San Diego.
Yeah. Would that require that you get a license to practice in those new states, or you would need someone on your staff that has that ability?
I'm working on that now. I'm trying to decide which one would be better.
Good for you.
I don't want to be licensed. I don't want to have to take the bar exam like 2 more times.
They don't cut you a break, do they?
Yeah. But we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, you would think if you were going for actually, I don't know. I'm assuming based on what you just said, you have to take the entire exam a second time or a third time for every. Yeah, they don't give you a pass on the basic stuff, and no.
Right, I wish they would.
Oh wow, that's funny. Well, David, this has been really interesting. I'm really impressed with your firm, and your plans and the way that you market. If someone would like to ask you questions about how you're running your firm, if they want to follow up, if they want to find out more about you on social, or maybe they have a case for you, what's a good way to reach out to you?
Well, obviously our website, missionlegalcenter.com. You can find us there. You can email me there. And another great way to get in contact with me is through Instagram. Our Instagram handle is Mission Personal Injury, and you can message me there, and I'll get back to you. And I look forward to co-counseling with people all the time. It's a great way to share the work, share the cost and the risk, and have fun together trying a case. So love to do that.
That's great. Well, thanks so much for your time. All right, everybody. If you would like to check out more episodes like this, where we interview America's top managing partners about how they're growing their firms, the full backlog is at arraylaw.com/podcast. We have something like 150 episodes now. categorized by practice area and state, so you can drill down and find exactly what you're looking for. And if you are looking for digital marketing for your law firm, my agency, Array Digital, focuses exclusively on law firm marketing. You can find more information at arraylaw.com, in particular about our services such as website design, search engine optimization, online ads, and social media. All right, David, thanks again.